Hey, good evening, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Beth Foss, and I am the Director of Operations at the CRF, and it's super good having you here with us tonight. We typically do these in the afternoon, but we're having an evening webinar, but we thought this would be a good time, and Tom was agreeable to coming, so we want to thank him. For those of you that have attended the conference in Rochester where Tom lives, he was one of our presenters. And just a quick side note, we're really trying to decide what would be some really good sessions, having repeats perhaps from the conferences and having different topics in that matter. But if you have any suggestions, whether it be researchers, subject matters, topics, whatever the case may be, wintertime can be a little long, especially up here in the Northeast. So if you would like to suggest anything, I would greatly appreciate it, as I know our organization would. Just go ahead, shoot me an email at bethfoss@carechm.org. And we'd love to have some suggestions, as we always do. All right, so we want to start off by always saying thank you to our sponsor, which is Genentech. And as many of you know, we use the chat feature. It should work. I checked it earlier today. So as Tom gives us his presentation, he'll be stopping periodically, and we'll go ahead and ask him your questions. This is really important that this is going to be very interactive. We sent out an email asking for any of your thoughts, questions, comments. And during Tom's presentation, he has answered quite a few of them, but we really want you to go ahead and ask anything because chances are you're not the only one that wonders that. And as we put this on our YouTube channel, many people watch it. So no question's a dumb question, right? One other further thing before we get started is Tom has graciously agreed to share his PowerPoint presentation with us. I will send it out to you. It does have vital links on it that might be helpful for now or in the future. So you don't need to worry about taking too many notes. All right, so I'm going to read this part because I butchered it at least 3 or 4 times, and I want to make sure I get this correct. But Tom did join us in Rochester during our conference. So we're just, again, very grateful for him. He is the department chair and teacher of the blind and visually impaired at the orientation and mobility specialist at Monroe to Orleans BOCES, which is a primary and secondary. I got it. I had to read it. I cheated. Which is a primary and secondary teaching institution. So again, super excited to have you guys with us tonight. Really pleased. And thanks, Tom, for joining us tonight.
Great. Good evening, everyone. Thanks to Beth for that introduction. And one of the things I want to say as we begin is that when she mentioned about any questions that come up, I find out that myself, after I have a presentation, that I sometimes have questions after the fact. So as I mentioned, as Beth will send out my email afterwards, I'm just trying to get my PowerPoint up. My email address is on there. And I put that up there purposefully because you may have questions that come up later, or sometimes you feel questions a little bit more personal and you want to do that, privately to do that. All of that will be fine. So to do that, and a lot of times after some information sits with you for a little bit, then that's where the questions come up.
Can I jump in real quick, Tom?
Yes.
I needed to. Thanks for Kathy. It says still, folks, that the chat is disabled. I don't know. I went in and it said it was all clear on the admin side. So, but the Q&A option is open. So we're going to use the Q&A box to ask all your questions. All right, now I'll stop. Thanks.
Okay, I'm just trying to get back to full screen a little bit so you guys can see the presentation. A little bit why I am getting that together. Is Beth, it's still portion is still a part screen. I'm just trying to get that out here from the beginning. Okay. Here we go. Okay. I'm going to go back one slide. Okay. Before we begin, just a little bit about my background and how I got involved in mobility. I've been involved in mobility since 1977 in some format or another. And currently, as Beth mentioned, I'm working in a K-12 environment. But I'm also working, I contract with the state, and I'm still teaching mobility to adults on the weekends and in the off-school months to do that. So I've been involved in mobility for quite some time, and I've taught all ages. My youngest clients were right out of the NICU unit, so they were 3 or 4 months old, and my oldest client was 106 to do that. So I feel really excited about the experiences that people have been able to share with me, and thus I can share this with you this evening. So one of the things, the focus as we had at the conference in Rochester also here was the fact is that mobility in its end result is a very, very individual experience. There might be a lot of general information that I present tonight, but all of it, when you become involved, or if you become involved with mobility training at some time, becomes absolutely individualized and personalized to exactly where you are and what needs you have. And it's an ongoing process, and it builds as you build, and to do that, and it's not an all or nothing experience to do that. So in this front slide, my email address will be there, and that'll be sent out to you. Okay, and we'll start now. So first, we're going to begin and just what is orientation mobility? Very commonly, it's called O&M in most of the literature or what you might look up on the internet. And basically, orientation is knowing where you are along any travel route on a map, a GPS, anywhere you're actually going from one place to another. And mobility is made up of a variety of many skills that pedestrians with visual impairments can use to travel safely, efficiently, and independently to whatever their destination may be. And that destination, and we talked about individualized, could be from one floor in my house to another. It could be from my front porch around my house to a neighbor's house. It could be across the city using public transportation. It could actually be going from state to state. It can be as as short of a trip or as long of a trip that you are hoping to gain your own independence with. And individuals who are blind and visually impaired can receive training in O&M to learn how to travel more independently. So here are some of the skills that a mobility instructor would teach to do that. And again, this covers the full broad spectrum and age-wise. So sensory development, or maximizing your senses to help know where you are in space. And then also using your senses in combinations with self-protective techniques, human guide techniques to move safely through an indoor environment, using a cane and or other devices to walk safely and efficiently. And I'm going to use a cane. I'm going to stop here for a second and say other devices. There is other ways to walk around either with or without a cane, depending on your vision or your needs or preferences at that particular time. And that could be with electronic devices, that could be with binoculars or other magnification devices, it could be with other GPS items to do that. Or it could be and other sort of public transit and private different types of transportation as well. The other is soliciting and declining assistance. And I'm going to stop a little bit with that one as well. Once you choose to sort of become more mobile, depending on where you are in the visual spectrum, to do that. Soliciting assistance when necessary and also declining it are both skills that we spend a lot of time on as mobility instructors. And the reason being is that you actually are in a situation when you travel independently that you may need assistance at a given time. And the other is that, and it's also okay to decline assistance. Just because people offer it doesn't mean that you have to take it. And we do a lot of work with any of our clients or students understanding like how to do that gracefully and with confidence to do that. Either way is good as you assert your own independence. Finding strategies that include the following directions and using landmarks and compass directions is really one of the major parts of teaching mobility, because most people have some residual vision to do that. So the idea of being able to get verbal directions about a route, using visual landmarks or items that stand out as markers along a trip, and then also learning and using compass directions to make your destinations and stuff a little bit more defined, as opposed to saying, oh, over there, or down a little bit further, or to do that. Talking about north, south, east, and west, and how to use those to your advantage. Techniques for crossing streets, such as analyzing identified intersections and traffic patterns. Problem-solving skills to determine what to do when you're disoriented or feel you need to change your route. And using public transportation and transit systems, and the use of electronic navigational devices. So to do that, if right now, Beth, we're going to stop there for a second to see if anybody has any specific questions just with that first slide.
Nope, not yet.
Okay, sounds good. Okay. As we're going here, one of the things I list here is, I suppose, problem-solving skills to determine what to do when you're disoriented or need to change your route. I have this conversation with my students probably on a daily basis. They might have will go through a certain thing and they're frustrated because, oh, I thought I knew that route, or I made that wrong turn, or I missed that street, and I didn't get where I wanted to go. And we talk a little bit about saying that the perfect mobility route, the perfect one, the one that is the best, is actually the one that isn't perfect. And that's because very likely is that the fact that you will have an absolutely perfect trip every single time you go out to travel is probably not going to happen. Anything could come up. Some weather issues could come up. There could be a detour somewhere. There could be a delay, change things. The fact is that it's actually more important to say, how do I get out of a situation where things didn't go exactly as planned? And for people that were either drivers or travelers before they started to lose their vision, it's no different than the same as that I'm all set to go and there's a detour along the way. So what happens? And this is not the normal route I go. So what do I have to do then? I think you learn more about yourself and your own independence actually when you actually overcome some plans that didn't go exactly as you had laid out to do that. And there's lots of variables when you travel. So the perfect route for me is one where it didn't go exactly as planned. You use the skills and experience that you have as a traveler, and then you figure your own way out there, whether it's designing an own route or getting some assistance from someone else as you finish the rest of that route. That to me is the perfect lesson to do that. And I think provides the most confidence. So who teaches orientation mobility? An orientation and mobility specialist provides instruction to help you to relearn the skills and concepts that you need to travel safely in your own community, wherever that might be. And as I mentioned earlier, O&M specialists generally can provide service across the lifespan, from infants and children in preschool or school programs, or as adults in a variety of community and rehabilitation settings. O&M is usually almost all the time is taught on a one-to-one basis, and can take place in either the community where you live, your home, your neighborhood, or sometimes at a rehabilitation center where they teach you some basic skills and then transfer them to the community setting. There actually is a interesting is that I used to work for the Veterans Administration and taught in Chicago. And then people who were veterans who had lost their vision would come to a central location in Chicago, wherever, if they lived in the center part of the United States, and they would come and live there for about 10 weeks full time. And they would actually learn in sort of an environment that we set up with all different types of neighborhoods and type of transportation situations. They would stay with us for 10 weeks, and then we would go back after they were done the 10 weeks and stay in their neighborhood for 2 weeks and teach them there as well. So that's kind of an old school model to do that, but there is that still does occur some places in the United States to do that. And a mobility instructor generally, there's about 15 programs in the United States that actually teach mobility. To do that, colleges that do that. Generally, there is some 4-year degrees to do that, but most of the programs, predominantly probably 80 or 90% of them, are master's programs after either someone has worked in adult rehabilitation or in some kind of education prior to that. Okay. Well, one of the reasons, one of the questions that came up in Rochester, and I think was really the onus for the organization to ask me to come and speak tonight, is a lot of the questions people were saying is that when should I start orientation and mobility? And that actually is a very unique and personal decision to do that. And the reason that being is that many people on their vision journey, or the loss of vision that they're experiencing, is individual and changes for each person. And many people think, oh, I've lost a little bit of my peripheral vision and I'm really doing okay. I really don't need some help. It's only, boy, when it gets right around dusk, or right around that, or if it's really sunny, or if it's snowing outside and I have trouble seeing the contrast. That's the only time I have problems, so I don't really need mobility. Or they might say, okay, I just, I know where I'm going. I have had the same job for a while, or I live in the same neighborhood. I can get around. It's not a big deal. And what changes that, and we'll talk a little bit about that in the next slide, but it's, O&M is this, again, the series of skills that allows someone who's visually impaired to travel independently through a constantly changing world. And the constantly changing world is your vision in that world. You haven't changed as a person, but the information that you're taking in and how you travel independently is changing. And it's variable depending on the progression of your vision loss and also the situations that you put yourself in to travel. And again, independence is key for all of us. We all want as much independence and onus over our choices as travelers as we can to do that. And O&M skills make it possible for someone who's visually impaired to be more confident, either with a white cane or a travel device or a guide dog, some people even use to do that. Determine if you need basic O&M skills. I'm going to go through a couple of the following questions. hold on. One is have you, first of all, what's the status of your vision? Is it changing? And is it changing rapidly? Is it changing slowly? And my sense is, and it's a question that people can ask themselves and only answer to themselves honestly, is how much of my life am I sort of giving up as my vision changes? Am I stopping things that I used to enjoy before? Am I um, and am I annoyed or actually sometimes even angry about that to do that? When you start, and that's when you start to think about these questions. One is, have you relocated to a new geographic location and everything is new to you? Have you started a new job? I'm in a new building. I have to travel with my job. I have to go to different buildings, possibly different cities, possibly different places around town. Am I at the point where I'm going away to college and I've never been away from home uh, uh, to do that? And my sense is that, and is there anything that's changing geographically that's making me either less confident about orienting yourself to an unfamiliar environment? I'm ready to go somewhere and say, never been there before. Maybe, no, I'm not interested in going. So someone invites you to a concert or a play or a restaurant to do that. And you say, oh, they say, oh, you could just meet me there. And it's like, in the back of your head, it's like, oh, I'm not really sure. Oh, that's a really busy place. Or, you said, hey, I'm not interested, but thanks for the invite. And that's when you start to sort of cut away things in your personal life. And generally that can lead to frustration and then other things. And the only way to combat that is to try something new at this particular point. The other is that we mentioned, has your vision changed or will it be changed? And you want to feel confident traveling using more non-visual techniques at different days or times of the year or the day. Now, it is interesting, depending if you live in the Northeast, traveling in the summer is a completely different ballgame than traveling in February and March to do that. And that's that way, even for if your vision is intact. And if it is not intact, it's even more challenging. And a very familiar route becomes something that's a whole different ballgame. And new skills have to be learned in order to do that. The other is that for a fact, you get a diagnosis from your doctor and you're noticing parts of your vision are changing to do that. And the time of day, like for instance, as we mentioned earlier, dawn or dusk or evening, you're saying like, oh, I can't never go out at night anymore because I can't make out the sidewalk. I don't know what's in my way. I'm just having too much travel to do that. Same thing, and darkness and extreme bright light provide exactly the same challenge for people. So if that's changed and you're finding yourself limiting to do that, it's another thing, should I consider mobility at that time? One is that do you feel like you're relying too heavily on your friends or family members for travel support? And do you want that to change? And again, where mobility becomes a personal choice, somebody might say, hey, I'm fine with that. My friends are great with me. I don't have to drive anywhere. I don't really have to think of it. I have enough people to sort of help me around and I don't really need mobility. And that could be fine to do that. But you could get to a certain point, or you may get to a certain point and say, like, I can never do anything by myself, or I always have to wait for someone else, or I feel like I'm imposing on people all the time because they're always helping me and I'm not able to help them in a different way. It's another sort of reason that some people consider mobility to do that. The other is that you have something that you want to prove to yourself, that you have what it takes to be an independent traveler at the level that you feel is important. And again, I remember one of my first clients, so a man who's about 55, and he lived on a 33-story walk-up, and he was adamant. People had encouraged him to start taking mobility, and I showed up at his door. We were doing that, and he just sat there and says, "No, I'm not really interested." I said, "Okay." yeah, that's, I can't, you're a grown person. I can't make that decision for you. But I said to him, I said, hey, is there any places that, I can take you today while I'm here? Is there any place you need to get to since I'm already here? He goes, oh yeah, I'd like to stop at the store, which is a couple blocks away, and I'd like to do this. So I said, okay, well, we can go. And I remember having a conversation with him. We were going sighted guide. And I said, hey, do you always have to wait for somebody to do this? And he said, yeah, I just really need to. I said, well, if you're ever interested, hey, I could probably show you how to get here. Okay. And you wouldn't have to wait for anybody. And so I remember we went to the store that he picked up a couple of things, and it was a month later, he gave me a call back. He said, so you really think that I could get there by myself? I'm like, I certainly think. He says, well, well, we could give it a try. I'm not really sure if I want to do it. And that started a journey for us. And we worked together for the next 2 years. And he got well beyond the store that was a few blocks away. And the other is that, am I a parent of a child who's losing their vision? And I want to begin to help them now as much as I can, knowing that their eye condition is progressive, and I know that their vision will continue to deteriorate. And so how do I help them prepare? These are all questions that I think are good as you reflect and decide if something in mobility is for you at any given time. And again, whether you answer any of these questions and you say, I think, yeah, that this one makes sense to me, or yeah, I am having trouble at night and I would like to be able to get, do some things on my own, or do this, or yeah, I feel like I'm always depending on my cousin or my spouse or there, and I'd like to give them a little bit more free time so they don't feel like they have to sort of, take me everywhere to do that. Then I guess that first conversation that you might have with a mobility instructor and agency about the service then becomes that individualized program for you. Just like I mentioned with this gentleman, he said, yeah, eventually he didn't want anything that one day. We talked a little bit about it, calls me in about a month. He says, well, I'd like to try that. And I remember through that first part, he'd said to me, this is all I want to do. I just want to get the store. I don't want to get anywhere else. And I'm fine. I don't need anything else. I said, okay, that's great. So to do that, we're ending. And I said, and, I was just always asking by conversation. He said, hey, boy, you always say that, hey, he used to like to go to the VFW. I said, hey, do you ever get there? He said, oh, yeah, well, it's all the, it's always the other way. And I and I have friends that take me. So, well, if you're ever interested, let me know. I could probably show you how to get there too. Again, and that's how he had his journey. He took these little bits and pieces and chipped them away to do that. And ended up being all over this small town in New York, in upstate New York, to do that, to get around. So let's stop there and see if Beth has any questions so far, and we can go from there.
No, you're doing a great job. No questions yet.
Okay, sounds good. One of the things is that, and we talked about considering training, is, and just sort of to summarize, again, you need to consider based on your personal needs, concerns, and issues. And whatever the reasons you decide or may decide on your experiences, you have to decide, has my loss of vision either threatened or lessened my independence? And I want to sort of regain some of that back to do that. And my sense is too is that many times people feel until they go through training that there isn't a way to sort of do that alone, or to do that without fear, actually. And a person not knowing or not experiencing part of mobility training is limiting their personal independence in a way that they don't have to. They said, I didn't realize I could do it that way, or I didn't realize I was allowed to do that, or I didn't realize that worked that way. And part of what a mobility instructor is trained to do is to help you look at those options to do that. And I think for mobility, it is, we help impart skills depending on the level that people want to travel to, but it really is about encouragement. My sense is you're trying something brand new that you may have not done before. And the fact is too, is that you take a skill and you practice it. And then you find out we try it in a couple different ways in a couple different locations, and you build the confidence necessary so that you feel safe and effective. And you say, yeah, I think I can do that on my own next time. And then very frequently I'm working with a young woman now. She's in her early 40s, and she literally grew up in Rochester. She left Rochester right after college, and then was working in Philadelphia for probably 30 years, well, probably 20 years to do that. And then COVID hit, and her job actually got eliminated to do that. So she ended up coming back home. So she came back to Rochester, where she learned her mobility, and she felt totally sort of disoriented. She had been, most of her adult life in a big city, and she's coming back, and she goes, oh, and she gave me a call. She said, hey, is there any way that, we can get involved in some training? And I can't believe I can't remember how to do all this stuff in Rochester. It's a whole new, transportation system, and to do that. And she had had a guide dog most of her life, and her guide dog had passed away. And so she had a lot of different changes, and she was, she said, boy, I feel like I'm starting at square one. And then within probably 2 to 3 weeks, probably maybe 7 or 8 lessons we had together, she's like, oh, I got it back. Yeah, I'm good. And she said she had been locked up in COVID for a little bit on practice, and she was moving back to a cane as opposed to her dog. And she said there's all these changes, and she says, hey, she goes, I guess it's sort of like, in quote, like riding a bike. She goes, it's all coming back to me now. So she is feeling very confident, and actually got a new job in Rochester that she started about a month ago, and doing really well. Now, I'm going to look at here. One of the last pages in the slide is really about resources. I want to talk a little bit about those items. I'm not going to show them. They're ones that they will be with the PowerPoint, and you can view in your leisure to do that. But I picked, there's a number of them, and both on YouTube, and on the internet, you can ask any question about mobility, and you're probably going to get a little video or something about it. There's a lot of information there, but I just took a smattering to do this. This one really has to go. The first one is called Here We Go, and it's called Orientation Mobility Instruction by Age, and that's with a website and an organization called Family Connect, which is a great organization, all based on people with visual impairments and information that they might need. But I chose this one of their videos to do this because this literally talks about mobility at every age, and things that are useful, and skills that would be right, say, from ages 1 to 2, or up to age 5, or from 5 to 10, and then teenage years, and then young adult years, and then senior years. It talks about all the different things that might be taught differently, progressive, and skills to do that. And I think can give you a good overview of the different types of things and how individualized that mobility can be. So that's definitely worth a look, particularly for parents that are thinking about their children, and maybe that might have declining vision, to do that. And then after that, any age from that particular thing. The next one is kind of a sore subject for some people. And that's I choose, and there's a lot of videos about this and information. And this is out of the Blind and Low Vision organization in New Zealand. And I chose that. It's called Using the White Cane as a Tool for Advocacy. And this short, and all these videos are pretty short, is that this really talks about the stigma that comes with the white cane. And there's another one at the bottom of that called Overcoming the Stigma of Using a White Cane, to do that. So I put 3 different videos, using a white cane as a tool for advocacy, thoughts on my white cane and what it means to me, and then overcoming the stigma of using a white cane. Now, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, there's a number of ways to travel. Not everyone needs a cane. Not everyone needs a cane full time. Some people use, I said, magnifiers or binoculars to help them, or electronic devices or object detectors or different things, or just GPS to sort of help them get around orientation-wise. But my sense is that when most people are getting involved with mobility training, they're at a point of level, if they've asked themselves those questions, that there's obstacles in my way that are making me nervous to be worried about drop-offs or stairs or coming in contact with items unnecessarily, or bumping into things or people. And that's usually when someone says, I think I have to think about this a different way. So do this, and with that comes, I say, well, if I take mobility, they're going to make me use a white cane. And these 3 videos all talk about the fact that these are all personal experiences from different people that say their own issues about thinking about that, and then how they feel after they went through training. And a lot of it is a metamorphosis that they say, this really annoyed me, but I was, how were people perceiving me when I wasn't traveling with a cane? I may have been lost or bumping into things or sort of looked disoriented, and people weren't sure what was going on. And most of these talk about the fact that most people universally understand that when they see that cane, that person has some vision problems. And most times they do see that as someone who's taking charge of their life, trying to figure that out. And people interact with you in a different way. Some people are more willing to sort of assist you when you need it. There are some people that want to help you more than you want, which is when we talked about declining assistance to do that. But it's that has a good side to it too, that that people really care and are interested. But you have a right to say, hey, no, I'm fine. I don't need any help right now. But those 3 different videos all give you some inkling if one of the things that you're worried about with mobility is, I just can't see myself using a cane to do that. And this gives just a way for you to start thinking about that in a different way, and possibly then asking questions of a mobility instructor or someone that knows more about that so it works better for you. The last one is the video has to orientation mobility in general. This is a kind of a general, this is out of the state of Michigan. And this has just a lot of information about the sort of the technical parts of mobility, how it's assessed, the different types of training that people go through, how it's measured, and how people, different experiences to do that. I put that down there to show you that it basically is a series of technical skills that are taught and then individualized to each person as they go through their training. But I thought this was a good overview of the types of full-blown programs that do that. Some people ask, so all of these are available to you when Beth will send you this PowerPoint afterwards to that. So, and if any of them sort of strike a chord or of interest, you can sort of look at them to do that. And as you look at each one, just as you do with most links on the internet, there'll be other similar ones like that. And you can get more information if you want to go one further or to do that. And again, after this is all over and a question comes up in one of these specific things, and you have a specific question to me, you certainly can email me as well to do that. So I'm always intrigued. There's like why people would even participate and say, I'm going to spend an hour on my Monday night and listen to this webinar. My sense is that you're already asking yourself some of the questions or similar questions that I actually brought up to you already. And so at this particular point, we can actually just see if there's any other thoughts or concerns that people have that I would be open to sort of talking about or discussing at this particular point.
That was really great. I'm waiting for the questions to come in. There's a couple people here that are with us tonight that usually send in questions. So we'll give them a minute or two. Again, using that Q&A feature, folks. Or you can text me if you have my email, but we'll go with the Q&A. Can you tell us a little bit about the cost?
Okay.
How does that work?
The other two is that, and you know, Beth, I will send something in addition. It's interesting. I just realized there was another, it was where to get services was in there. I want to make sure if it's in that slide. If not, I will resend it to you. There is a website that you can go anywhere. It's a website you go to and you put in your state and your zip code, and it gives you all of the places where you can go locally to get any sort of information about mobility. I looked at it again. I have to go back and look at the item, but if not, I'll email that to you this evening. So someone can say, you know, I live in Nevada, okay, and there's a pull-down menu, and orientation mobility training is one of them. It, you know, might have things about, I'm looking for an ophthalmologist, I'm looking for training, I'm looking for rehabilitation skills, I'm looking for different things. So if they go under and pull orientation mobility training, then you know, within their area, I might say for me, I might put up Rochester, and it might pull up 4 different areas that these are places I could call. Now cost changes, okay? Most of the places where you can get mobility training, you can get free of charge to do that. If you are at a level where you are already diagnosed and legally blind, okay, that's really not a question at all. I don't think there's a state that doesn't provide that as a service at no cost. Okay, and generally that's involved with being sort of connected with a local sort of like organization for the visually impaired. And then you get listed on kind of a list of people that are eligible for services. And then you could just go and ask for services at that particular time and set it up with them at the local agency. If you are not legally blind, my sense is that many people can then work through their eye care professionals to do that. Generally, for most people that might be involved in the organization, they're already involved with an ophthalmologist, okay? And that's where I would set those questions. And then what happens then is that even if they're not legally blind, just like in many other things, a doctor can say, hey, this person needs this training in order to go to work or to be able to do this. And therefore, that becomes sort of the golden ticket to say, yes, this is how they can get services.
You know, Corey just shared 2 folks on the Q&A that the listing of state services for the blind is on the CRF website in the resource section. Okay. But we'll take yours too.
Yeah, I'll just make sure. But that's really useful item because it just gives a starting place to do that. And many times, even if you just, almost every one of those agencies has basically what they call an intake process. And that person, those people are just trained everywhere to say, have a conversation. This is where I'm at. This is what I'm doing. This is what I think I need, or I don't know what I need. And they can help you sift through the things that are in your community to do that. It just seems looming, you know, like where do I even go, you know, and to do that. And particularly in a progressive eye disease, someone says, oh, I don't think I need it now, but I might need it later. Start the conversation early too. You might not even need it now, but you just are trying to prepare later on in case you need it later.
Hey, Brent Pike is with us tonight. Brent is asking, is there much difference between a State Department of Vocational Rehab O&M instructor versus a private for hire O&M instructor?
I think the only difference is that you want to make sure is that in my title, there is an organization that certifies mobility instructors, okay? And it's called ACVRP, okay? And I'll send that to you, Beth, as well, okay? That's a national organization that certifies that the person that you're getting has all the credentials they need to teach to
Okay.
do that. What happens is that so if you work for a state vocational rehab, or you work for a school, or you work for a hospital, okay, or you're working privately to do that. And I do both. I work for a school, I work for the state, and I also work privately. It's just different ways that people access the service, and they're all, it depends. And I'm not going to kid you. Some instructors are, just like in any profession, there's some people that are better than others. They are. And most times they're better because they have a wider breadth of experience, or have either done it longer, or they might do. And my sense is too, is that depending on where you live, okay, your choices might be more limited. If you're incredibly, like, really rural, sometimes your access might be different. But my sense is that if you're with a mobility instructor and it's not a fit, you can look for another one.
Mm,
Okay. It's like a
good.
doctor. It's like anything else to do that. If you feel like somebody's pushing you in a place that you don't want to go to, or
Mhm.
they're explaining it in a way that doesn't make sense, say, again, go back to the agency and say, is there someone else I can talk to? You shop around a little bit. But
Great.
credentials wise, as I'll send that to you about this organization, you can say, hey, are you certified by this organization?
Good.
You know,
You've been doing this a long time, Tom. Is there a certain type of language that you would suggest? As people, as our eyes can, deteriorate, we have to work with our employers. Is there any kind of language or certain points that you would say work well when you need to have these conversations with your employer?
oh, I think that's a trickier question, Beth, to do that, because as depending on the job and the employee. So I think there's certain professions that's easy to do. In an educational profession, sometimes it's easier because they're used to sort of making those accommodations. If you're working in the medical field, some people or something like that, sometimes they're a little bit more astute in saying, oh yeah, there's ways that we could do that. If you're working for, a mom and pop store, or a really small organization with 2 or 3 people, and they don't really know too much about it, they all might respond differently to do that. I think the more important part is the fact is that if you feel you get to a point where you are hiding it, okay, if you feel like I have to cover this up, so either I don't lose my job, or they don't look me over for to do that. My sense is that that's a scary place. But the second you feel like you have to hide it, my sense is you're giving up some of your independence right there.
Mm,
So my sense is that in that particular point is when you have to, and this is different financially for everybody. Someone says, I really can't confront my employer. I have to hide it because I need my job to do that. But my sense is if you're hiding it, you can probably guess already that it's visible to other people. Okay. And I always feel it's better for you to take charge of that rather than someone else take charge of it. Okay. Because eventually what people will see is, if I feel like, if I'm in a job and I really feel like I need to say, hey, you have a conversation with employees, say, hey, I'm having trouble reading this or doing this position, but I'm making these accommodations and I can do that. I just want to let you know that that's why my work might take a little bit longer than it did before, or to do this. I think people respect the fact that you take charge of it, okay, to do that. Now, is there professions that do that? Like, give an example, like, yeah, if you're a bus driver, okay, and
right.
you're in the process of saying, yeah, if I'm with an ophthalmologist and they're just ready to say to you is that I have to report the fact that your vision is low enough and you can't have a driver's license anymore. Okay. There's certain positions that will alter immediately after your vision gets to a certain point. And that's a reality that none of us can change at this particular point from a safety point of view, or running certain machinery, or to do that. But my sense is that back to your original question, the language, it's not so much about the language, but the fact is that if I feel like I'm starting to hide it, I probably need to talk to whoever's in charge, and I take charge of it rather than they
Mhm.
guess of why my work's not the same, or is a little bit different than it used to be.
It's very affirming. It's very that you're in control of this instead of it controlling you. That's good.
Exactly. And I think that's what it is that now, could it come out with a bad outcome? Yeah, it could. Okay. like saying that you don't have the job, but it probably doesn't feel worse than feeling like you're hiding and have to cover things up your tracks every day, every minute of the day. And you might say, hey, and then it forces you into a situation, say, I may need to look at something else.
Within our organization, we have a lot of our members that have canes. We have dogs, and we certainly have family members and friends that help us get around. Do you have any, I want to say tricks of the trade, but do you have any surprises maybe that you've used, whether it be some technology? I know I've been with Eric Hartman, who's with us today, and he used My Eyes, which was an app on his phone, which I was astounded at. But would there be any other things that you're seeing with your clients that maybe we don't know? I know that's a different subject, but do you have just maybe something small that you would suggest that we check out?
Well, there's a series and what I can do, Beth, is that there's about 4 or 5 apps that I now always introduce to my clients, always. And it's really interesting. Some of my clients are, I'm just going to say older. So like I'm 70 now. So I always say that 20 years older than me is old. So no matter what my age was. So that's my demarcation. So now I'm thinking like someone in their 90s, and I'm talking, say, like using certain apps on their phone, and they're looking like I'm crazy, So, but what it is that it's provided another way that you can be in control of the information. So I'll give you a very simple item. Trip planning. Say I used to go, say I've moved to a new location, I have a new apartment, and it's across town, and I'm not used to this area anymore. And so I don't really know where the stores are. I don't know exactly how to get around or whatever, and I can't drive anymore. So my sense is that the simple item, both Google Maps and the other maps now have all these features on it, and you say, hey, I'm right here, I'd like to get here. And then it gives you an option vocally. This is the buses you could take, and these are the times you could take it. This is how much it costs. This is how much an Uber would cost from there, or a Lyft. Gives you choices and saying, hey, this is a comparative price. My sense, if you wanted to walk there, this is what gives you all these different routes, okay, and the option to say, or a combination of both. Like before, you would have to do that all by phone or have someone teach it to you. You would have to like literally walk it out every single time. And now it's at your fingertips, something very simple, which would be what we call route planning to do that. And the other is that there's 2 organizations and both reading apps that actually will vocalize anything like on the internet or on your phone. You can just take a picture of it, it'll read it right back to you, whether it be a sign on a window, whether it be, a price on a device, or to do that. And what I'll do is that I'll send you a couple of those too. People can just explore those, so you'll be able to mail those out as well. But there's 4 or 5 things that I automatically say, yeah, you need to learn how to use these. Okay. And I'll show you. And, obviously you're going to make the choice whether they work for you or not, but I need to sort of put that out there. The other is that most people are not aware of, and they're harder to come by, is that everybody's used to what binoculars are to do that. And a common tool is a binocular, which we help people say, like, if their vision's deteriorating, particularly if their field is deteriorating. So if their peripheral field is deteriorating, but they still have fairly good central vision, this sort of binocular or sort of mini telescope actually can extend their vision quite a bit and say, oh, I can see something across the street, really know exactly, oh, I can find that. And I don't have to sort of walk around the block and try to find it. I can sort of zone in on it a little bit easier. Things like that. There's definitely things like that make your life easier, but you need a little bit of training with them. Okay. But there's certainly, I started teaching without any of those devices, and I'd say it's a game changer for most people.
That's awesome. And we have had a couple of different webinars here about apps, computer programs, and so forth, but the technology is changing so quickly. So it's always good to ask everybody that we have, what, as you just did. So
yeah, and it's interesting. One of the ways that we teach my youngsters at school now, we don't really teach them we teach them individual apps, but we don't sort of get hung up on a piece of technology or an app, because we realize it's teaching a functionality. This one is a place where I can call and get assistance live if I need it. This is a place where I can call and get directions if I need it. This is something, an app I can use this. And so we teach them about the functionality that technology is adding to visually impaired people's lives that was not there before. And we start say, hey, and we say, they're going to change. Like if I'm teaching kids in high school now, by the time they're out of college, there's going to be 20 more and they're going to be doing different things. So we said to them, so here, this is the skill that you need, or the bump up of that you need. So you're going to be look for a device or an app that can do this, this, and this for you. So we get them to be consumers of apps and say, because some of them are garbage. Some of them, they do one thing and that's all they do. And so, and they become limited. Like there's probably 10 now that just read currency, that just, they can tell you, oh, this is a $5 bill. Okay. To do that. But that's the only thing it can do. So we look for stuff that has more functionality, that they don't have to carry 10 things around with them.
Hey, Tom, Lori's asking, where do you buy a monocular?
You can get a monocular almost through your ophthalmologist or optometrist.
Okay.
Most places that sell lenses can do that. I will also give you, there's an organization called MaxiAids. Okay. And it's MAXI-AIDS. And it's a website that has a full range of, I'll send that to you as well. Okay. Is that a full range of items for visually impaired people. And they also sell monoculars. Okay. And if you're involved with an ophthalmologist or an agency for the visually impaired, or you have a counselor, they're the types of things that would be covered. Okay. Either through insurance.
I guess Amazon covers it too. Kathy just said Amazon.
Yeah, Amazon. Yeah, you certainly get anything on Amazon, I would say. Yeah. So to do that. Okay. And Amazon might have better prices. I didn't think about that. So okay.
I think I'm just, any other questions, folks? We're gonna end up, Brent Pike says, hey, do you always receive such few questions because you covered the subject so incredibly well? Well done. There you go. That's right.
Yeah. But again, for all the people that are here this evening, is that, and it is that things settle for a little bit, and if they rest in mind. And I would not have put my email address out there if I wasn't willing to take questions to do that. I might not have the answers, but I certainly might be able to direct you or do a little research for you and get back to you.
Well, you have been just a gift, a treasure, and we so appreciated your presentation in June at the conference. I know many people sought you out, are still seeking you out, and we wanted to do the same. So you were very generous with your time and your gifts and your talents. So we really appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah. Anything mobility is that I love teaching. I love teaching mobility. I really do. That's why I went back to it after retirement again. And I think I like it so much because it's when people finally, they have that look on their face and say, I got that. I have that now. It's like, it's something they kind of relearn and they have it and it never goes away then. And there's never that sense. It's one less thing that says, I can do that again. And when your vision is diminishing and stuff like that, there's a lot of times where you feel like there's things that are taken away that you're angry, upset, and sad about sometimes.
Yeah.
And that fact is too, is that mobility is one of the ways you can say they can sort of gain a little bit of that back.
Or more.
Yes. Okay.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay.
Hey, everybody. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah. I'll work on those site by either later tonight or early tomorrow morning. I'll have all that stuff back for you. Okay.
It's getting late. It's okay that you can get it back to us later.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Thanks for having me on. It's even though we didn't speak back and forth, it was nice to meet everybody.
Yeah, you guys, thank you so much. And I want to thank Genentech one more time for sponsoring. And next week, we're going to be having a webinar with Dr. Young on stem cells in the afternoon. So thanks again, Tom. Thanks so much.
Have a good
night,
time.
everybody.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.